Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where we deliver the critical developments that often slip under the radar of mainstream outlets, but could shape the future in ways most investors aren't prepared for. While the global spotlight drifts toward elections, international disputes, and celebrity culture, Iraq is quietly making powerful moves on the global economic stage. A transformation is underway that could influence both the country's financial stability and how it's perceived around the world. At the center of this shift is Iraq's increasingly strategic effort to join the World Trade Organization, and the momentum behind this effort is reaching a pivotal phase. Iraq's fourth WTO Working Party session may sound like a technical formality, but it carries major implications. When Iraq's representatives confidently stated, "Just because this is our fourth meeting doesn't mean we need 20, it was more than a casual remark. It signaled serious progress. The country has moved beyond simply answering procedural questions. They're now presenting structured, policy-aligned responses that indicate a readiness most nations don't achieve until much later in the process. For a country working to overcome decades of sanctions and instability, that pace is truly exceptional. Historically, many countries have needed 10 to 20 years to reach WTO membership. Iraq, by contrast, has moved forward with astonishing speed. Trade experts familiar with the WTO's internal processes confirm there is growing interest among current member states. This isn't just about Iraq. It's about the regional and global impact of an integrated Iraqi economy. A more stable, connected Iraq would open new trade routes across the Middle East, attract diversified foreign investments, and serve as an anchor in a region often seen as unpredictable. From multinational corporations to Iraqi entrepreneurs, the advantages are becoming increasingly obvious. What's more, Iraq isn't just preparing on paper. Major construction and infrastructure upgrades are underway. The Development Road Project, a $17 billion zero-cents undertaking, aims to link Iraq's southern ports with European trade networks via new rail and highway systems. This isn't just a transportation initiative, it's a game-changing logistics network that could redefine Iraq's role in global commerce. For the first time in generations, the country has a chance to become a vital corridor rather than merely a supplier of raw materials. But infrastructure is only one part of the equation. Iraq is also aligning its legal and economic systems to match WTO standards. New transparency laws, investment protections, and competitive market frameworks are being implemented to signal Iraq's seriousness about reform. This is a significant pivot for a country long hampered by corruption and administrative inefficiency. Iraq's legislative efforts show a clear intention to build systems that international partners can rely on, institutions that support not just economic growth, but long-term stability. This transformation isn't the result of luck or coincidence. It's been years in the making. While much of the world looked away, Iraq's central institutions, regulatory agencies, economic planners, and lawmakers have been laying the groundwork for this moment. Now that foundation is beginning to show results. Iraq is no longer just rebuilding, it's reintroducing itself, and it's doing so not with military interventions or bailout requests, but with legal reform, infrastructure, and global partnerships. That's why Iraq's WTO momentum is more than a headline. It's a powerful redefinition of national identity. For decades, Iraq has been seen through the lens of conflict. This new direction sends a different message, that Iraq intends to earn its place at the international table through merit and strategy. It's telling the world, in no uncertain terms, that it's ready to be taken seriously, and it has the progress to back it up. The regional implications are substantial. If Iraq succeeds, it could inspire neighboring countries to advance their own economic reforms and trade integration efforts. For years, regional cooperation has been discussed in theory, but rarely implemented. Iraq's progress could be the tipping point. When one country shows that policy can produce prosperity, others may follow. Trade has the potential to do what politics often cannot. build durable partnerships based on shared interest and mutual benefit. Of course, challenges remain. Domestic political disagreements, lingering security issues, and institutional gaps continue to pose risks. But unlike in previous eras, Iraq is no longer waiting for ideal conditions to act. It is advancing despite the obstacles. And that shift from reaction to initiative is perhaps the most promising sign of all. While the world's attention may be elsewhere, those closely watching Iraq's WTO efforts understand the stakes. WTO membership isn't just a symbolic milestone, it opens access to global markets and frameworks that affect everything from agriculture policy to banking standards. Iraq won't just be adjusting to international norms, it will be shaping them, and that changes the nation's global standing in a profound way. Let's pause here before we continue into Part 2, where we'll explore how this trade transformation is impacting Iraq's youth, reshaping investor behavior, and positioning the Iraqi dinar for long-term strength. The next section will also examine former President Trump's indirect influence on current trade dynamics and why Iraq's negotiating strategy may help avoid the mistakes of the past. One of the most overlooked aspects of Iraq's WTO momentum is its potential impact on the younger generation. In a country where over 60% of the population is under the age of 25, the promise of WTO accession isn't just a macroeconomic headline, it's a possible gateway to opportunity. Young Iraqis are now looking beyond traditional employment paths. They are exploring entrepreneurship, tech startups, export businesses, and new industries that never existed under previous conditions. By gaining access to global markets, these individuals can begin producing goods and services that are competitive not just locally, but globally. The energy in Iraq's youth sector is already shifting. Tech developers are coding apps for international users, local artisans are preparing for export, engineers are exploring partnerships with global firms. There's a quiet buzz of anticipation, and it's being fueled by Iraq's slow but steady integration into the global economy. These young minds have long been boxed in by conflict narratives. Now, they're starting to believe in possibility, and that belief, backed by systemic change, can become a powerful economic force. But it's not only business potential that's growing. There's also a cultural transformation taking place. For decades, Iraqis have been largely inward-facing, focused on surviving years of war, sanctions, and occupation. This next chapter demands a new mindset. It requires seeing the country not just as a place recovering from its past, but as a forward-looking participant in global development. As Iraq joins multilateral institutions and opens itself to the world, its people will begin thinking and acting with broader vision. This shift, from survival to strategy, is already underway. The Iraqi leadership has also made it clear that WTO accession will not be pursued at the expense of national sovereignty. The Prime Minister and his advisors have repeatedly stated that Iraq is seeking equitable terms, agreements that protect domestic industries while still welcoming international trade. It's a careful balancing act, one that, if executed properly, could help Iraq grow its economy without becoming overly dependent on foreign powers or multinational corporations. That's why Iraq is moving methodically, not impulsively. Each step in the negotiation process is measured. Each legislative update is calibrated. And according to insiders, this approach is paying dividends. In the most recent WTO Working Party session, Iraq reportedly met more than 80% of the conditions required for accession. Observers noted the professionalism and preparedness of the Iraqi delegation. If timelines continue without major disruption, Iraq could achieve full WTO membership by late 2025 or early 2026. Even before final membership is secured, the effects of Iraq's efforts are already visible. Foreign interest is growing. Countries such as Turkey, India, China, and Germany are reportedly entering early-stage negotiations for new trade agreements. These discussions indicate that Iraq is no longer being seen as a post-conflict zone to be avoided. It's being recognized as a rising market of strategic importance. And this is not centered on oil exports alone. Sectors like agriculture, tourism, technology, and education are starting to attract serious investor attention. Former President Trump's foreign policy legacy, while controversial, left behind a strong focus on bilateral trade deals and economic leverage. Though Iraq was not a primary focus during his administration, some of the international dynamics established in that era laid groundwork that Iraq is now capitalizing on. With global trade more decentralized and competitive than ever, Iraq's current government is expanding beyond bilateral ties to pursue a more diversified, multilateral engagement strategy. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about choosing strength through flexibility. This evolving landscape also means Iraq must modernize its regulatory and judicial systems to meet global standards. The government is already implementing anti-corruption reforms, strengthening contract enforcement, and refining its banking systems. Each reform reinforces the others. When trade laws are updated, investor protections improve. When financial institutions comply with international rules, foreign capital flows more freely. It's a virtuous cycle that could ultimately support not just the economy, but democracy, transparency, and civic trust. That's why WTO progress isn't just about trade. It connects directly to the value of the Iraqi dinar. Currency value doesn't exist in a vacuum. It reflects trust, credibility, and future potential. By gaining membership into one of the world's most important trade organizations, Iraq sends a message that it intends to honor its commitments, stabilize its economy, and offer investors and citizens a predictable environment. That type of stability often precedes currency strength and revaluation potential. For those tracking the dinar closely, this is a crucial development. Serious investors always consider a country's global standing. WTO membership would represent a foundational shift, one that increases Iraq's credibility and long-term prospects for economic growth. It's not an overnight fix, but it sets the stage for greater integration, better monetary policy, and more responsible fiscal management. As the next WTO review approaches, the world is starting to take notice. This is Iraq's moment to step forward, not just as a participant in global trade, but as a contributor. And at Iraqi Dinar News, we'll continue to monitor every update, every key vote, and every strategic reform. Because these changes are not abstract, they impact the future of the Iraqi dinar and the people who believe in its resurgence. Stay subscribed to remain informed. Share your insights below. Are you seeing shifts in how banks or governments near you treat IQD holders? Have you noticed signs of global players preparing for Iraq's entry into new markets? Let's stay focused on facts, strategy, and long-term vision. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay informed, stay alert, and stay committed to truth over hype.